Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another video for The Division. If you missed last week's video, then I spoke about some of the recent rumours surrounding the Division Alpha, and also spoke about some of the topics covered in the very first official Division podcast, which, by the way, if you haven't listened to, I highly recommend you do. It's a great chance to not only meet, albeit virtually, the team behind the game, but also find out more about development and even get some questions answered. I'll leave a link to it in the description box down below if you want to check it out. But that is enough of last week. Let's talk about this week. This week I am back on the rumour train because once again some more rumours surrounding the Division Alpha have surfaced, and it's therefore my duty to tell you guys about it. But just before I do, it is worth noting that these are rumours that have supposedly come from people that have playtested the Division pre-alpha. This information has in no way come from or been confirmed by the team at Massive, and therefore it's entirely up to you as to whether you believe it or not. Also, being a pre-alpha, the reason things like this aren't usually publicised is simply because the game is still being tested, which means things that are implemented right now may not make it into the final game, so again, feel free to take this with a pinch of salt, but either way, let's go. Firstly, let's talk Dark Zones. If you're new to this concept, Dark Zones are areas located around the game world that, once entered, allow you to encounter and engage with other human players, PvP zones effectively. And up until now, the way in which you enter said zones has been a bit of a mystery. Do you simply cross an invisible boundary and you are immediately in danger, or are you notified? The one thing that we have always known is that the Division has no loading screens, so Dark Zones most certainly won't be something you select from a menu. However, it now transpires, as reported from one of the alpha testers, that supposedly when transitioning into a dark zone you will pass through some sort of decontamination chamber. This way you are able to consciously make a decision as to whether or not you want to enter the zone, and in turn put yourself at the mercy of other players. This also means you shouldn't stumble into it by accident, so you can always prepare yourself. Then, while still on the topic of dark zones, as mentioned, these are open world PvP zones where you can encounter other players. The number of players you can encounter, however, has always been a bit of a mystery. Given that the single player, in inverted commas, portion of the game can be played with 4 friends and a 5th on a mobile device, I always imagined that Dark Zones would potentially host around 8 to 16 players, the usual sort of lobby size for competitive arenas. And while Dark Zones are not team-based arenas, it does seem a logical number of players based on the instance structure of single player. However, again, coming from the alpha testers, supposedly a Dark Zone can hold up to, get ready for this, 100 players. 100 players! If that is true, that is absolutely insane. See, the reason Dark Zones are so interesting is because it's not your conventional PvP setup. You don't get put into a team which you then work with to face off against your opponent. Instead, you are simply in a zone that now has the added danger of players that could choose to either work with you or against you. You won't know where the threat is coming from and when someone is about to ambush you, and as previously discussed in my Dark Zones and extraction videos, if you acquire a rare item or weapon in a Dark Zone, you need to successfully extract with it in order to be able to keep it. Extraction not only triggers a timer, but it also alerts nearby players. Which now means, if this is true, were you to enter a dark zone alone, and the lobby was full, there are a potential 99 people that could come and mess with your shit. You have better be ready to hide, that's all I'm saying. I am most certainly not prepared to go up against 99 people when I'm trying to get my special weapon out of there. Okay, that's probably an extreme scenario that would obviously hinge on everyone needing to be in the vicinity at the same time, but it could happen. And as scary as that is, it's also flipping awesome. Now supposedly, when you first enter a dark zone, other players aren't identified, so it's hard to work out whether they are potentially hostile or not. But the more kills they land, the higher their reputation becomes, and the higher your rep, the more visible you are on the map. So if you suddenly come across someone who is quite clearly marked up as a human player, chances are they're a killer. Either run or take them down, just don't try and go up to them and shake their hand. Although, speaking of shaking hands, if you do encounter other squads in the dark zone, there is also apparently an option to cooperate with them. Quite how this works we don't know, seeing as conventional squads are restricted to 4+1 on a mobile device. I would very much doubt you could physically form a team of 8, but it could be like raid teams in something like World of Warcraft, where you have smaller squads or teams that are linked by a wider raid group. Maybe there's some sort of alliance system that highlights the team you're working with so you know not to shoot them in the back. The alpha testers also described scenarios where they saw players scaling up and down buildings with grappling hooks. If that is true, oh my god, please just be true. I love climbing stuff and grappling hooks will make exploring the dark zone so much cooler. Plus, imagine if there's a pesky sniper up on the roof just taking everybody out and you have a grappling hook and you sneak up behind him and then just stab him in the back. That would be awesome. Now, I mentioned earlier that weapons or items you find in a dark zone need to be extracted with. Well, it also seems that while carrying them, they are stored in a special compartment. The backpack you have in the game is said to be split into 2 compartments. one section for normal items, one section for contaminated items. It wasn't explained what you need to do in order to decontaminate an item, but now that we know you enter a dark zone through a decontamination chamber and exit by extraction, it could be one of two things. It could either be that by extracting you automatically decontaminate the item, and that's the trigger that lets you keep it permanently, or, now that we know from listening to last week's podcast that the Division also has hub zones, which are large social spaces where you can meet other players, it could well be in these hubs you have special item vendors, or merchants, that specialise in decontaminating special goods. I think that could be a pretty cool option, simply because there'd then be an additional layer on top that will make you really work for that item. Not only have you fought through a dark zone to get it out, but you've now got to fulfill some additional criteria before the merchant can unlock the item for you. Either way, that's a little bit of personal speculation on my part, but I think that could still be pretty cool. Now, looking at the single player / cooperative space, the wider game world when outside of dark zones, supposedly the AI is actually quite challenging. And they are notoriously effective at working as a team against you. They supposedly combine a wide array of moves to truly work as a team. That involves scenarios like an enemy throwing a flashbang while his team flank behind you and snipers from afar keep you pinned down. I genuinely hope that's true. It'd be really cool to have a challenge, especially given the setting of the game and all the skills and tech you have at your disposal. I don't want to just shoot my way through all the enemies, I want to have to think about my engagements and actually use all my skills at my disposal. Then, the last topic I want to talk about is customization. Now, I'm actually going to be doing a standalone video on this soon because there's a fair bit that I actually want to talk about, but for now, it was stated that weapon customization similar to that of Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier will exist in this game. The ability to expand weapons, rotate them around and swap out individual parts, then reassemble it and take your newly improved weapon away with you. Quite how and where you can do this does still remain to be seen, whether you can do it on the fly when you pick up parts, or again whether you are required to return to the hub and visit some sort of customization bench, shop or vendor is unknown, but it does sound like there's going to be quite a lot for us to choose from. And lastly, as an additional note, the testers stated that the game is already promising in its current state, and they felt based on its stability that they are confident it will make a 2015 release, which is also what the team said in their official podcast, so hopefully we won't have to wait too long for some sort of playable alpha or beta ourselves, and then not too long after that for a release. I'd imagine it will still be the end of the year, but hey, it's already March, it's not that far away. And with that, I've reached the end of today's video. Again, just remember that none of the above information surrounding the alpha test and details about the topics discussed have been confirmed by the team in an official capacity. So while it's exciting to talk about, do still take it as rumour and speculation until we hear otherwise. But as always, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and hit that thumbs up button, and if you're not already part of the Arekkz Gaming Nation, then make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single video. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the potential for 100 player Dark Zones, and once again thank you very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.